Joe, I told you just a minute ago, I feel like I'm picking between two teams here that I don't trust. It's like having two side pieces and girls and trying to figure out which one is more loyal. Neither one of them are loyal because they were with you when you were cheating. The bottom line here is this. I don't think that here's what I just continue to feel in my gut. I don't think Jimbo's getting enough credit. I really don't. People watch them lose to Miami and say, oh, typical Jimbo. It wasn't typical Jimbo. Everything about that game was not typical Jimbo. Great defensive backs, great defensive play, offense highly anemic. The offense was electric against Miami, who, by the way, might be just a really, really freaking good team, and they've just continued to win. The front seven for A&M, arguably, I would entertain of someone making the argument is the best in the SEC. Miami only rushed for 77 yards. And look, Joe, that was back-to-back weeks that Auburn took a team that was in the top 20 or should have been in the top 20. They gave A&M everything they wanted, and then the following week, they played Georgia at home and gave Georgia everything that they wanted and more. Auburn is a really good defensive team. I don't trust Bama in anything that they're doing offensively. There's not one area that I say I really trust this. Maybe Jason McClellan, but I don't think that they're going to be able to run the football this week on A&M.
Alabama is quite possibly one of the most lopsided teams in the country because defensively they are phenomenal. Their secondary has been amazing. Quilly McKinstry and Terrion Arnold are fantastic corners. They have one of the most disruptive front sevens alongside Texas A&M's in the country. And then statistically, defensively, they're way up there in the top of every single category. But offensively, man, they are just impossibly frustrating to watch. I think last week they tried to establish a new identity, which is the one that we've been yelling about on this show a million times over, which is just run the damn ball. And it worked against the bad Mississippi State team. The reality of the situation is it's like Daniel Jones with Jalen Milroe. He just does not see the field effectively. He does not make decisions quickly enough. And with a bad offensive line, that leads to sacks. It leads to turnovers. It is a very slippery slope. I am leaning Texas A&M in this game. And I think Texas A&M is going to win this game because of what we saw last week and the way that they played against a similar style team. One that gets your quarterback and your running back involved heavily in the
quarterback and KJ, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
KJ is a much better passer than Jalen Milroe is. Now, Alabama has better receivers than Arkansas does.
Do they?
By a slight margin. Okay. My point here is if they were able to be that disruptive, that front seven of Shamar Turner, Walter Nolan, McKinley Jackson, my brain completely shut down for a second. If all of those guys were as disruptive as they were against a similar style offense, I'm telling you right now that it is going to be a very long day for Tommy Rees and that kindergarten offense that they're calling.
Joe, I think that if you're running an advanced calculus course in college offense, that it would still not bode well for Alabama because of personnel, right? That defensive line for A&M is something ridiculous, dude. I told you, we talked about this in the offseason, right? And the one thing that I continue to bang on the table about, and I know that we had a lot of discussions, brother, I told you this D-line was going to be something serious. They potentially, in my opinion, had three dudes that can make the argument for being first-round picks. If Walter Nolan or McKinley Jackson both went in the first round, you'd be like, okay. Even if it's a late of round one, you'd be like, all right, makes sense. They were highly disruptive in college. But I don't know how much I trust Jimbo either. Now, let me throw a very crazy question your way. You ready?
Okay.
What team, if either one of these teams loses, the meltdown's going to be massive on both sides. Oh, no. Jimbo is the same old Jimbo. He can't get over the hump. If Alabama loses, there's going to be people in Tuscaloosa asking if Nick needs to hang it up. So who do you want more? Do you want the meltdown in Aggie land, which I tend to lean with because of it? But man, I got to tell you, I've seen the meltdown in Aggie land before. I know how that gets around Jimbo. I want something new. I want the people of Tuscaloosa for them to have to say Nick Saban should hang it up. Do you know how nuts that would be? That man has won you 5 national championships, and you're going to sit here and tell him to hang it up. Shut your damn mouth.
Well, you see, you're bringing up a really good angle here. I think that the Texas A&M fans are kind of already checked out. You know, I feel like they're kind of in the
fans?
Well, let me rephrase. They're expecting the worst on a weekly basis. I think that there is a little bit of that expectation that we hope that this works out, but Jimbo has yet to accomplish what we've set out for him and hoped for him. He has come up consistently short. On the other side of things, the Alabama stuff's been slowly building. With already one loss on the season to a former assistant, and then to lose to Jimbo and to that Texas A&M fan base, I'm telling you right now, there will be a meltdown. There absolutely will be a meltdown. It's coming.
Well, I want to see what would happen because, Joe, Saban could go 0 for 12 the next 2 years, and still they have no reason to fire him. None. They don't. I mean, come on, dude. Like,
doesn't mean he wouldn't retire, though. You know, it doesn't mean that he wouldn't decide to retire.
Oh, I'm sure he'd have the discussions in his head or do whatever. But this is what – so there's not anything that I can come out here and say X's and O's wise or why I think Bama could beat A&M. I don't have that formula from what I've seen from them. But you know what I do know? I think Saban's back's up against the wall a little bit on this one. And my man's going to come out swinging. Did you see red-faced Saban on the sidelines last week?
I did. I did see it.
My man, hey, as much as I hate to admit it, we're back. Hey, red-faced Saban is back.
Okay, but pissed off Saban, what does that do to fix
wins
Jalen Milroe? Okay, but not with this team. Not with that offense.
Fair.
I get what you're saying. And
Nick's backs up against the wall, and I think that he's going to throw out every stop that he can think of to win this one.
From a matchup-based perspective, I just don't see a way that Alabama has enough of an edge for them to come out with the win in this game. I see such a significant advantage because both teams have good defenses. One defense is better than the other. Alabama's defense is better than the other. But I feel like Texas A&M can cook up a drive or two to put some scores on the board when they need to. I trust Max Johnson more than I trust Jalen Milroe. And I know that's kind of a crazy thing to say, but Jalen Milroe is yet to show me in a high-pressure situation when the game is on the line for him to make important plays. I'm yet to see him do that. Max Johnson has experienced starting for multiple seasons at multiple programs. And if he hadn't have already transferred once, I'm sure he'd be somewhere else starting right now at another program, maybe in the Big 10 or the Big 12. He's stuck where he is, and he's taking advantage of the opportunity. He didn't look great against Arkansas, which is why I have a little bit of pause. But I just don't see what Alabama has that is going to give them an advantage outside of a good defense that has been carrying them so much.
Do you agree with this?
I don't.
For everyone on the podcast, it says Ruffino has the faces and voice of the WWE. If you smell,
I disagree.
Okay,
I don't see it.
All right, my last thought on this is simple. I'm with you. I'm taking A&M because of what I've seen on the field. I have high disregard for that pick, though. Like, I know that we have picks. I know that we always want to be right on these picks. Mm-hmm. If Alabama wins, I will be the least shocked person in the country because I should have known better, right? Like, I feel like if everybody picks A&M and Bama wins, we should have known better. But logically, like if we're just thinking logically with our brains, two dudes that know football, There's nothing that Alabama does that should stop A&M. Now, I do think defensively they can get after Max Johnson, and I think that this game is not going to – if this game got in the 20s, like if it was 27-20, 27-24, that's going to be your final. It's not – There's no way that either one of these offenses, in my opinion, can score over 30. And for that reason alone, and because Alabama plays the style offensively of what A&M needs to rotate guys in and out, have a fresher defensive line, it will bode well for them. I think Max Johnson gets a couple of touchdowns. I think the running game from A&M late in the game is going to get going. They're going to really make a push there late with Moss and others. Give me the A&M Aggies, I think, by 3, Joe. Give me 27-24 would be my final. You got a prediction on the game? Score?
I don't have a score prediction, but I do think that this is going to be low scoring. And we saw an iteration of this game last year when Jalen Milroe had to step in for an injured Bryce Young and
threw 3 picks or had 3 turnovers, had a fumble and 2 picks.
Was Haynes King the starting quarterback?
Haynes King.
It was. So he started that game.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have an actual competent quarterback who can throw the ball a little bit better.
Haynes King.
I think.
Which, by the way, man, Haynes King hadn't been too bad at Georgia Tech. Him and his goofy wind up have been good.
They lost to Bowling Green last week.
He didn't lose to Bowling Green.
They lost to Bowling Green last week. We're not talking about Georgia Tech ever.
Let me ask you this question, because we were talking about this with Jaden Daniels last week. I just have one question for you. Is wins and losses a quarterback stat to you?
No, it's not.
Okay. So then why are you getting on Haynes King and Jaden Daniels?
Okay, but this is why I get so frustrated arguing with you, because the whole Stetson Bennett thing was like me arguing that it's a team victory, and then all of a sudden it's a Stetson Bennett victory. That's where it doesn't make sense, because you normally lean on that side. But then all of a sudden, when it's for Jaden Daniels and his Heisman hopes, I was
leaning for Stetson Bennett.
That was your argument.
No, it wasn't.
That was yes, it was.
You said he was trash, and I said that there's a difference.
I said he's not one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. That was what my argument was. I said he was a good college player. Never once said he's trash.
Man, you got to he's won 2 natties.
He didn't. This was the argument. He didn't win 2 natties. Georgia won 2 natties, and he was the starting quarterback
that won 2. He was the starting quarterback for a team that won 2 national titles back to back.
That's my whole point.
Okay, so I mean, he's got to be up there. And by the way, I mean, the defense for Georgia against Ohio State really laid a turd.
He didn't.
Stetson Bennett led him to a victory.
Move on to the next game. I'm not doing this with you.